Hey folks, Malforian here, and welcome back to the channel. Today we're covering Dev Diary 129 for Crusader Kings 3. Post-released, update, extra content. It sounds like one of those fighting game titles, but it is actually our first look at what is coming next to the game. This is all going to be part of the next free patch, which is going to be 1.9.1. It's going to have a bunch of fixes and tweaks, as it says here, just probably some balancing from tours and tournaments, and then also any bugs and things like that. Are probably going to be included in this patch as well, but they're going to talk about the free content that is coming. There's two things basically. They both look pretty cool, so we're going to get straight into it. The beginning here is just a bit about the two chaps here who are going to talk to us and give us some more information, so I won't read through that. I will, as always, leave a link to the Dev Diary post in the description down below, so if you are interested in reading about it, you can click on that link and follow along, but we're just going to get to the content itself. So the first thing they're going to talk about here is points of interest. The first thing here is just a screenshot of how the kind of edit route thing looked in the early dev builds of tours and tournaments. And then as they get to here, enter points of interest. Basically, they're saying like the actual traveling is pretty interesting, but also you basically will always just go to the kind of the easiest route, the quickest route, and that's not going to give you much trouble. But they have thought about like how to get players to kind of deviate from the most economical path, maybe with some interesting mechanics. And as they say here, points of interest is basically this system. It is a small system that rewards you for visiting interesting places. These points of interest will give you a reward the first time you visit them during your lifetime. The same also applies to your entourage, so bring along people, and it will also improve them, as a lot of the mechanics do already. So as the example is here, if you go to Pisa, you will visit basically the most serene Republic of Pisa. You will gain 100 diplomacy lifestyle experience for basically visiting somewhere interesting on the map that, if your character went to, they would be like, wow, this is pretty cool, a little merchant republic kind of thing, and, kind of learn something from just being in that area. All special buildings, if they are built, obviously, if they're not built, they're not going to give you anything. Give a point of interest based on their type and give different rewards depending on their special building type. So they've got Giza here, the pyramids, obviously, and this will give you 150 prestige and 100 stewardship lifestyle experience, I guess, because it's pretty prestigious to go to the pyramids in the Middle Ages. So, yeah, if you do a route through here, maybe if you're going on pilgrimage or something, you want to go through Egypt on the way there, stop off at the pyramids, get some lifestyle experience, get some prestige, it's not too bad. And then the different special building tab rewards, so forts and forts will give 100 martial lifestyle. A part of a multi-province defensive structure like Hadrian's Wall will give you plus 25 martial. Universities and places of learning will give you 100 lifestyle experienced in your currently selected lifestyle. So that's pretty cool. It's not a certain one. It's kind of based on, I'm learning martial, well, I'll go to the university, and as I go past, maybe I'll brush up on some books or something like that and learn a little bit about martial lifestyle. So it's pretty cool. That one is actually different depending on what lifestyle you are. Religious sites and buildings will give you 100 learning and 100 piety if they're of your faith. Palaces and political buildings will give you 100 diplomacy. Ancient wonders and natural wonders will give you 100 stewardship and 150 prestige, as we saw with the pyramids. And economic buildings, mines, ports, etc. will give you 100 stewardship lifestyle. So I do like it is based on the kind of building. They could easily have had it just be, you just get 100 of whatever lifestyle you are just for passing past them, but they're actually based on what kind of building they are, which is pretty cool. It makes you think about where you might want to go. If you're going on a grand tour or, like, say, pilgrimage, probably, you can choose to go past certain parts to get the most out of it. And then visiting capitals of independent kingdoms and empires will give you lifestyle experience based on their court type if you have the Royal Court DLC, or it will be diplomacy by default if you don't. Empire capitals are more rare and give 300 lifestyle experience points, whereas kingdoms give 100. The capital points of interest are updated monthly, so sometimes your information might be slightly out of date. That is pretty cool. So if you're obviously traveling somewhere and it's quite far away, if they've changed their court type during your travel, when you get there, it will actually give you different lifestyle experience depending on what theirs is. So as the example is here, Constantinople, it is an intrigue type court, so you'll get 300 intrigue. You will also, because it's got the Hagia Sophia, get 100 learning as well. So It's a pretty cool place to go visit. Obviously, one of the major cities in the world at the time, so it's kind of apt that it gives you a really good bonus as well. So now just going through the different capitals of kingdoms and empires is going to give you that little bit of bonus. I mean, especially, I suppose, if you're just doing simple things like going to pay homage, going to request something from your liege if he's a king or an emperor. You're obviously going to get the bonuses from doing that, or the events at least. But then obviously you're 9 times out of 10 going to be going to the kingdom or empire capital. So you're going to get these bonuses just by going there. So basically on every character, if you pay homage, maybe you don't. Maybe your character isn't the kind of character that does pay homage. But if you do pay homage, you're going to get these bonuses as well. Nice little jump at the beginning of your kind of rule. You can get a nice little bonus, obviously depending on where it is. And then as we continue down here, giving out these lifestyle rewards is very narratively fitting for expanding the horizons of your character, but also substitutes nicely for the normal lifestyle events you're not getting whilst traveling, which is a good point, actually. I hadn't thought about that. You are traveling, and I do see a lot of posts on Reddit and places that, like, the events whilst traveling are really overpowered, and I think some of them are pretty good. Some of them are especially good, but you are sacrificing your character being at home, getting events at home, and doing things like that, so I don't think it's as easy as, oh, it's definitely overpowered, because you are sacrificing something to go traveling. So I do like that they've thought about that as well. They are rewards that fit narratively into what your character is doing, but also they do kind of make up for some of the shortfall of events that you would have if you were back home getting those lifestyle-based events proccing whilst your character was there. Some locations can also trigger a great city sightseeing event chain, which is actually hooking into another project of another CK3 developer. So yeah, it looks like they're going to be talking about Rome. When you visit, you get a message and the point of interest is marked as visited. To seek similar rewards, you will have to visit different places in the future. Once you've picked up the Traveller trait, you'll also get a bit of experience towards the different tracks within the trait. Martial and economic building points of interest give seasoned track experience, whereas the rest give wanderer track experience. Kind of, I guess, makes sense. And then, yeah, that's basically... So they don't actually go into what this is then, this great city event. So I guess we might get a little bit of a dev diary in the future about that, kind of giving what this kind of chain of events is. I would imagine it's like visit Rome, visit, somewhere in Spain, visit kind of London, visit Paris, and maybe if you go to a certain amount of them, you get different bonuses based on which ones you go to. Maybe something interesting like that, who knows? And then, yeah, to conclude, here's a snapshot of the point of interest that exists in 1066. As you can see here, quite a lot of them. And they're all, to be honest, in pretty obvious places. I mean, to be honest, they're basically where all the special buildings are for the most part, so kind of makes sense where they are, except for, I guess, some of the mines. I think there's a mine missing down here. Some mines missing here, I think, as well, if I remember correctly now. Some were added in the recent updates. But as you can see, you could chain quite a lot of these together. You could go along the northern bit of Spain here if you're playing in Castile or somewhere, or Leon. You could visit all these ones at the top. You could, if you're in the south of England, you could travel all the way up here. These are obviously Hadrian's Wall, and I forget the name of it, the one that's on the border of Wales. And as you can see, you could probably chain a few of them together just doing quite small trips, depending on where you are located on the map. But again, pretty cool to see where it all shows there. And there we go. No DLC required. This is part of the free update, so this kind of sightseeing part is going to be part of the update for free, and it looks quite interesting. Just a nice little bonus, to be honest. I mean, it's free content, and it's nothing too crazy, but it might make you think a little bit more about where your route is when you're doing some traveling around. And then we move on to the second part of the dev diary. This is all about What's the Harm, which is a new, almost like a mini feature. It's all about how they want to bring some unpredictability into how long your character lives, because at the moment, as they say here, they've been very reluctant to just kill you in CK3. They've generally wanted you to be kind of in control of your character. They don't want to kind of make it feel like they're taking the control of your character away from you and having things happen that you had no input into, which I kind of agree with in a way. I think a lot of people would prefer more of like a CK2 where your character would die kind of just randomly from different events, which obviously can happen anyway. You could die from martial events, duels, disease, war, and things like that. Things can just generally happen to kill you, but your character never just kind of dies at like 35. You don't just get a thing, oh, you've died from just natural causes. Your character just died for kind of no reason, really. And they're saying they kind of want to bring a little bit of that back in, and we're going to get into it as we see here. This is a stylistic design choice. It didn't feel that great when a random event pops up and just killed you mid-run with no setup or warning. It can be impactful every now and then, and especially in narratively dramatic times, Like if you're going on a crusade and then your character just dies, it's kind of annoying that your characters die, but it's quite a cool kind of story that he kind of died on crusade or something like that. But it's also a quit moment for many players. So they know that some people, they've built up their character and then they just die out of nowhere and they just get mad and kind of like quit the game and just go play something else or something. They don't really want that happening a lot. So I can see from both ways, as we said. But in wanting to provide an experience that felt fair, we overcorrected somewhat and scrubbed a vital element of friction from much of the title. So again, they're just saying like, they probably made it a little bit too safe for characters. They generally do live, as we said before, unless an event kills them. That's kind of like a logical event, like a murder or something like that. Whether you're building up your realm, planning marriage alliances, or carefully organizing your succession, these little shakeups are needed to keep your course corrected. They're the firm, unexpected kick in the back of the knee that keeps you guessing and makes you react on the fly. So you're not just planning out your character's life, your realm, and thinking, well, he's going to live for like another 20 years, so I don't have to rush to sort out succession. I don't have to rush to set up these alliances, because I generally know, unless I do something kind of on my own kind of influence, my character's probably going to live, so they want to kind of put that little bit of randomness into it. Not just that, of course, because random death and dismemberment were absolutely staple features of the medieval world too. You might get struck down by a virulent camp disease whilst marching, you might fall from the window of a tall tower, you might die in a house fire, you might be thrown from your horse while riding, you might be playing too roughly with another child, you might be old and just fall down the stairs. The list goes on. Corpus kings and clergy alike all had to walk the dance macabre eventually, and not everyone got to go from the traditional big three of honourable combat, succumbing to wasting disease or expiring from the ravages of age. Sometimes you just die, and that's what they're bringing back. The challenge we set ourselves then was adding a few more ways for death to happen randomly without making for a frustrating experience. Enter the harm event. So the first one here, can't breathe, obviously is one of the ones where you're going to die. The second one here, I think because they've got whole of body, they get a special decision where I guess they can kind of get a much better outcome of that. Or calm, small breaths to the physician. You're going to rush to the physician and he's going to save your life probably. So nothing too crazy, but I think quite a cool event. Harm events are out to do one of two things. If you're unlucky, they want to kill you. If you're lucky, they want to render you incapable. There generally isn't a direct gameplay benefit to surviving them, and there's always a stress cost. Oh, so that's interesting. There's not a good ending. Their odds are generally pretty harsh against you, though depending on the event, high skill levels might give you a much better chance of success. And some traits will let you trade stress for negating a specific harm event entirely. That's cool again. Like building in, like a lot of things we've seen, especially in this expansion, is kind of interweaving the different systems is happening a lot more, I feel, and bonuses you get from one thing are helping you in another section of the game. So yeah, it looks like lifestyle experience or certain traits are going to help you in these events. With these, there's a whole variety of new ways to unexpectedly expire or reduce to a bedridden shell. Fun stuff, you'd love to see it. But I did also say, though, that we were trying to avoid frustrating rockfall PC dice situations, and that's still true. To avoid that, almost all events are partnered with a foreboding event, something that fires first and alerts you that, hey, you are now eligible to spins the tombola, unexpectedly choke to death. So you do get a little warning, I guess, like, hey, in the future, you might die, so watch out, get your affairs in order. Rather than spring immediate death or incapability on you out of the blue, we alert you that you are now at risk of it. It can now just happen at any time. In fact, just getting a foreboding event gives you a 50% chance of getting the follow-up harm event within the next 4 to 8 years, so you're also eligible to fire it forever after. For example, here's a foreboding event. Playing tall, quite a funny name, people like playing tall in the game. As the king, I don't get much time to myself, minders and guards are everywhere, keeping me safe from both harm and all sense of fun. Finally though, I've managed a lot. It took a little daring, but they don't know the route past the walls that I know. I can't use it too often, but when I do, all of the Ile-de-France stretches out before me. Freedom. What fun. This one actually is kind of cool, makes sense. You're younger and you're like, yeah, I like going into the forest and no one's going to stop me. I'm going to do that. And then I imagine the follow-up is going to be like, you fell out of a tree. It's going to be what it is. Yeah, the follow-up event. I do love trying to explore the Ile-de-France. Were it not for my secret path past the walls, I never have the opportunity to spend time away from the fussy guardians, let alone play alone like this. How would I get the chance to even find a big tree as this one, let alone climb it? Those busybodies would never let me. This is a quite tall tree, isn't it? So yeah, he's gone off and had a little bit of a play. He's messing around in this tree, and then he's going to fall off the tree, I guess. Just got to be careful. Help, help, help. It doesn't look so high. And obviously the bad outcomes here are pretty much like the one above. Basically, 80% chance you become incapable. So if you take over a character that's like 10 years old, just going through those initial things before you come of age, and then, oh, you've just decided to climb a tall tree, and now your character's incapable or dead, basically. So I can see how this could shake up some playthroughs. You're kind of planning out what you want to do. People who like doing the like eugenics of setting up a perfect character and then they just die from falling out of a tree instead. So, and again, you don't get that at the moment. So I really like how this looks so far. And obviously this is quite a cool event. So the goal is to warn you that a new type of random harm is on the table. So the notion of playing around in the back of your mind. Maybe it'll come to nothing. Maybe you'll forget about it. Maybe you've just got a few short years left to live. Do you want to make rapid preparations for succession? What if it never happens at all? What if you just push to do things a little bit faster in your realm so you are ready for your heir? What if it happens sooner than expected? Lots of little questions to be asking yourself. So it is putting that kind of little bit of figment into your mind, like you're not just playing through and going, oh, well, I'm fine. As we said before, I'm just going to do this whenever. Once you get that pre-event happen, you're always going to be thinking like, oh, it could be any minute. The follow-up event might happen, which I guess is kind of gamifying it in some ways. It's not like you know, but I guess for this tree one kind of makes sense because you're like, oh, I can just sneak off into the woods, and then obviously that leads into falling out of a tree. Some of these other ones, I guess, like the clogged throat, I'd be interested to see what the pre-event is for that. Like, I did almost choke from eating that apple. Better not happen again in the future. And then it does happen again in the future. I don't know how it is going to be, but it'd be funny if it is something like that. As I say, there is one for every event, so I guess something is going to happen roughly like that anyway. There are 16 new harm foreboding pairs for becoming incapable, while 15 pairs and one triplet. Becoming incapable due to the march of time versus your declining health sees your mind weaken, your body start to fade a little, and then you become incapable. 12 new harm foreboding pairs for dying unexpectedly, and 6 new events for dying becoming incapable whilst on campaign. Oh, that's cool. There's going to be 6 just whilst if you're kind of on war. I guess that's like, you're just traveling somewhere, you trip on a rock and you break your back. I don't know. There's going to be something like that, I would imagine, because it's on campaign, so maybe like a random arrow just comes past and hits you and sends you incapable or something like that. So, again, pretty cool, because, you go on campaign, and the only way to really die is obviously if you get slain in battle by somebody, whereas obviously during wars, random stuff happens, friendly arrow, friendly sword just accidentally takes you out or something. So it's cool to see them kind of mixed into that as well. And then another one here, thumping heart, burning thoughts, succumb to fatal apoplexy on the 15th of September. So yeah, basically you get a little thing saying, oh, my heart's been a bit weird recently. And then obviously like in 6 months, 4 years time, the follow-up event happens and you're like, oh yeah, I did have that heart problem like 4 years ago. It's come to get me now. So those last 6 pairs aren't paired with a foreboding event. The warfare ones, as we were saying, there's no like foreboding about it. Just random events can happen. So history is replete with examples of even fairy hail and hardy warriors succumbing to sudden unexpected disease, poor luck, or taxing environmental conditions. From John Lackland, no idea who he is, probably should know. Richard the Lionheart, obviously do know, and Frederick Barbarossa. So I guess all 3 of them met any unwelcome end, but not through like direct conflict with another person. Instead, opting to put yourself in charge of the army is a warning that you're in dangerous taxing position where poor luck might cost you dearly at any moment. High health will protect you from many of the potential ravages of campaigning, with the amount needing going up the more you age. But the best way to starve off the risk of death outside of battle is to campaign in terrain that you have the correct commander trait for. Oh, that's interesting. Actually puts a little bit more use into the commander traits then, because at the moment you have like the different ones like desert commander, forest commander, whatever, high ground commander, not high ground, hills commander, or whatever, terrain expert, that's the word I'm thinking of. I should probably make more use of them in my campaigns, but I generally just forget which one I have and just fight people wherever. Whereas this is, again, going to make you feel about it a little bit more, I guess. So here, so cold. I guess this guy isn't a winter soldier, so he's not used to fighting in the winter, so he's getting a little bit too cold. And then this guy isn't used to jungles, so he's getting an event where it's like, you're getting jungle fever and something's going to kill you from one of the mosquitoes or whatever. that you're not used to being around. You're not a jungle expert, so bad things can happen to you. And then they get into here like how you can safeguard from this. If this doesn't sound like something you're going to enjoy, you can turn it off basically in the game mode options. So maybe you're not a big fan of this change. Perhaps you prefer a more predictable world, or you want to have the occasional sudden death, but most escape by on it just fine. For you, we have the safe and illusion of safety setting for the new random harm game rule. So if you don't want to deal with this stuff, you can just turn it off, which again is fantastic. Like if you're not interested in these random deaths, if you just want to have a chill time, don't worry about stuff like this, you can just turn it off. And maybe you've been waiting for something like this for a long time though. Maybe you want a more uncertain world, or for life to be that little bit more mean-spirited than most. Then we've got the tragic setting, making harm events much more likely. Also got the spiteful setting, which specifically weighs up the likelihood of all harm events to target proportionally better or more interesting characters. And if you've got both, well, tragically spiteful is a single edgiest game rule that we've added to date, has got you covered. So you can basically turn it up, and the better a character is, the more likely they are to die from a random event, which would be crazy to kind of see how that plays out. So as soon as somebody gets powerful, they're going to be like constantly triggering these events to happen. I don't think I'd ever play on that. That's probably a little bit too far, but it would be pretty cool to kind of see how a campaign played out that way. So as long as you've got the harm event set to anything but safe, they run on a cooldown. Players can't be subject to a harm event more than once every 50 years, so this is just a general setting, so even if you just have this turned on with nothing kind of upped in difficulty, it's only once every 50 years it can even happen, and the AI not more than once every 30 per house. So only one person every 30 years in a whole house can have it affect them if it's the AI. For you, it's your character, which I guess makes sense. You're obviously playing that character, so it's got to happen a little bit more to you, I guess, than the AI, and it would probably bump off a lot more AI if it was literally proccing on every character. So you can change them. These cooldowns help to reduce the frustration whilst keeping the threat present, and mean that even playing on Tragically Spiteful, you can still thrive and survive just with the occasional setback. So another one here, Not So Young, Growing Fragility. You're just becoming more fragile. Not So Young, The Descent. Once again, I find myself looking the stairs down from my room and wondering if I need a miner, and then he's going to fall down the stairs. So through his old age. So, you know, he's not going to die from just normal old age. In this, he's going to, unfortunately, fall down the stairs and potentially kill himself or become incapable, basically. And that's it. That's the new harm events. That's like the little bit of extra stuff that's coming in the next patch. This is only the first stuff. I imagine there's going to be a little bit more. These are obviously the first two things they wanted to tell us about. Let me know what you think about these. The first thing is like a definite win. I can't see how people wouldn't like this. I think it's a cool system, like how it works with the extra travel and the extra little bonuses and stuff like that. And they're nothing too crazy. It's like 100 martial lifestyle, 3 trade experienced in Traveler, so nothing insane. Some of them are quite good with prestige, but nothing too crazy. And then this harm events, I really like these. Giving that little bit of randomness back into the game, as they said, is going to just spice up some campaigns. You're not seeing the same stuff play out all the time. And you can change it. Like it says, you can turn this off if you're not interested. We can turn it up if you just want a crazy campaign where everyone's meeting an unfortunate event quite often and it's probably going to kill them. So overall, I think I like this. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. I'm not sure if we're going to get another Dev Diary next week. Doesn't say. So we'll see if there's one next week. As always, if you've enjoyed the videos, hit that like button. I play narrative campaigns on Crusader Kings. I cover the Dev Diaries news, all that good stuff. And I play other historical titles on the channel as well. So if that sounds good to you and you're not already subscribed, hit that subscribe. It helps me more than you probably realize. And yeah, we'll leave it there for today. And I'll see you in the next one.